welcome to another episode of the Chaos Chronicles, Navigating the Randomness. I'm Jess, and today we have Jamie joining me.
Hello.
So obviously, elephant in the room, Connie is not here. That might happen a little bit more frequently with her being in law school. So Jamie is kindly joining me this week.
Very happy to be here.
Yes. So we are going to be continuing on our Gary Ridgeway journey.
Let's do this.
Jamie is all caught up. She did listen to part 1, so she knows what's going on. Again, to let you guys know, we are going to be going off of the prosecutor's summary from the Superior Court of Washington for the majority of basically everything from my notes is from that. Trigger warnings for this week, we have prostitution, necrophilia, details of the death victims, dump sites, and essentially we are just getting into the mind of Gary.
We're getting in there this week. Oof. Okay.
It's going to be interesting.
Yes.
All right, so part 2. Gary claimed that he didn't remember much for specific victims. Some of this is due to the just amount of women that he killed. Individuals didn't have much meaning to him. Quote, like I said before, they don't mean anything to me. And once I've killed them, I didn't keep it in memory. I just knew where I dumped them, end quote. He was shown pictures of his victims and consistently stated he didn't recognize them. Gary was asked questions in regards to his memory, and he was able to give a detailed memory of every vehicle he has ever owned. He described each place where he's ever lived in detail, and he gave his employment history, responsibilities, and dates for those as well. So he was able to show himself as having a great memory for things that meant something to him.
That's great. He's acting like it's just no big deal. I guess it wasn't to him, apparently, but to not remember that kind of thing, like, he just did not care at all.
No, it's wild. It's going to get more wild. Investigators were frustrated with Gary because he wasn't able to give them any details on his victims, and it seems that he had a great memory. Gary's response was, quote, that's the way when I put that in there, it's a place where I locked it in. My mind doesn't want to give it up, end quote.
Okay.
So it's like he's kind of saying that he might have the memory, but it's locked away for him and him only.
So he's purposely being like, I just don't want to tell that, so I'm just not gonna say, I'm just gonna say I don't remember. Or, and I don't know a lot about the timeline, maybe everything's just merging together. And he just literally is like, I don't remember if it was that one or a different one, so I'm just not gonna say, which is a
Could be
whole other
that.
crazy. But that's what I think of too.
Mm-hmm.
Or
yeah, because this was just within a couple of years. Most of it was in a short time period.
Or does he go have a different brain when he's doing these things? You know what I mean? When
Mm-hmm.
that brain, he turns it on and off, and then he just doesn't. That's stored away somewhere. You know what I mean?
Like a Jekyll and Hyde personality
Yeah,
almost.
yeah. That's all I can really think, because I'm to not remember, I guess when you get that high of a count of victims, yeah, but that's a big thing to not remember. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm keeping an open mind as much as possible, and I know we're hardly even in it. Okay.
So he was able to identify many areas where the remains of his victims were discovered. He even led investigators to 4 different areas where there were undiscovered remains. Gary put a lot of time and effort into finding the appropriate victim. He would go patrolling, as he would call it, before and after work, and he would drive through areas where prostitution occurred. Some of his common areas were the Riverton area along PHS, and this was the area that he found most of his victims, the Kent Des Moines area of PHS, Rainier Valley, Seattle's International District, downtown Seattle, North Seattle, and PHS South. Gary estimated that he picked up and killed around 15 women from the Riverton area. When Gary would survey the area, he would often park in the lot of 7-Eleven, and sometimes he would even open the hood of his car and pretend to work on his truck while watching the highway. He claimed to have only killed street prostitutes. When questioned, he stated, quote, "Prostitutes were the easiest. I went from having sex with them to just plain killing them," end quote. Additional reasons for picking them up was because he believed police wouldn't look hard for a missing prostitute, and also since they were on the move often, it would be hard for police to determine where or when they were actually killed.
Which is interesting because he doesn't seem to care that much about being caught and basically confessing everything. So why at one point was he like, "Oh yeah, it's easy, people won't come looking." He seemed kind of brazen about it anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. It's kind of also the same mindset of, I don't know if you saw our Joel Rufkin episode. He killed a lot of prostitutes in New York
So they
as
just
well.
basically think like they're the easiest target because they move around a lot, like people aren't necessarily looking for them as often, like
Mm-hmm.
whatever.
Yeah.
Hmm.
A lot of them weren't, as to my knowledge from the Joel Rufkin episode, a lot of his victims weren't like reported as being missing or anything
Oh,
like that
okay.
even. So,
Okay.
mhm. So his assumption was correct, as missing person reports weren't often filed and they were hard to figure out where they were actually last seen. So it's hard to keep track of where they are and what they're doing.
Also, it's interesting that he basically admits that, like his reasoning for choosing prostitutes, because the way he talks about his killings and I'm so proud of it and blah blah blah. It's like, okay, I mean, not that it'd be good if it was anyone, obviously, but it's like, okay, so you're just gonna go for the easiest thing, but you're just so proud of, or what you claim is the easiest thing, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and you're just so proud of it, like, okay.
Gary, so he also denied killing any men because, quote, "they don't give no sexual gratification to me," end quote.
Okay, but wasn't he just saying like he would like wasn't even interested in the sex with the prostitutes at a certain point? He literally
At
just
a
killed
certain,
them. So at a certain point, it just went away from that.
that's what it sounds like per what he was
Okay.
saying. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So most of his victims were in their teens, and the reason for this was that the younger they were, the less likely they were to con him, supposedly. These killings were also carefully planned, premeditated, and they weren't impulsive. Gary stated, quote, "When I get in the truck, when I'm driving and might pick up a woman, want to be in the mood to kill. I always had it in my mind to kill him." End quote. So he always made sure that he was in the mood to kill if he was going to pick up a
That
woman.
was his premeditation, was just making sure he was in the mood.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I guess.
He says, "Oh, I always made sure it was like carefully planned," but then he's like, "Oh, I just go." What did he call it?
um.
Trolling or not
Oh,
trolling,
patrolling.
patrolling. Yeah, like
Patrolling.
trolling.
Yeah.
He is a troll. They're like patrolling. Okay, so it wasn't that. I don't know.
No.
Hi-
Uh,
Him being in the mood to kill is his. Is it okay?
mm-hmm. He admits that there were a few women that he didn't kill for whatever reason, but that was far and few between. During this period, he would only sleep for a few hours each night and devoted his free time to hunting, killing, and disposing of bodies. Gary had many ways to gain the confidence of a woman. He actually admitted that many women actually asked Gary if he was the Green River Killer. Yeah, and he would respond suggesting that his small stature wouldn't allow for him to be the killer.
How small? What
That's what.
was he like? What? Why did he think he was so small? That was his excuse, though.
That was his excuse, though. He is 5'10".
Okay. I don't
He's
know. That's not
he's
bad.
5'10".
So he's basically just like little old me,
Little me. Yeah, I mean that's still taller than me.
Yeah, like okay. I don't know. I would not see a 5'10" guy and be like, oh, like you couldn't. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
Although I suppose the most of his victims were in their teens, so they're probably very small compared to him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Probably. But according to him, most women thought that the Green River Killer was a large guy around 6'3" and 185 pounds.
Why did they think that? Do you know?
Probably
Just
just
like
because of the
they
sheer amount of
assume,
people.
okay, like he must be a
Yeah.
big guy if he can just take these
Hmm.
people down. Okay.
I mean, if you're thinking about this, like, big bad serial killer that's off, like, killing just a whole bunch of women,
Yeah.
you don't, at least I don't picture, like, a short, scrawny guy doing
Well,
it.
now because of what we know and like all the movies they've made about them,
Right.
now I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
they're all kind of yeah, like I could see it, but you're right. I would assume they'd be bigger. But I was just curious if like the police had, for whatever reason, like previous victims been like, oh, we think it's a sketch or something, and we think it's this, and that's why they thought it. But that's not the case. They're just assuming. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He estimated that 50 women asked him if he was the killer. He never told any of them that he was, but he did tell a few of his victims when strangling them that he was going to kill them. Some prostitutes even thought Gary could be an undercover cop. He would sometimes offer them a beer in his truck to let them know that he wasn't a cop, and this would relax them.
Okay.
Some of the ways that Gary would get women to trust him would be offer to become a regular, lend them his vehicle, offer to get them jobs, offer to give them food. He was never worried, though, about making these promises because, quote, they were already dead.
That's what I was just gonna ask. Like, did he ever follow through on any of these? So he never did.
Mm-mm.
But I guess in my mind, like if someone's saying something about some future date or whatever, you're not even thinking about
Well, they can't be planning on killing me if
right,
they
if they're
already have
talking
another.
about this. At least they're not gonna kill me tonight, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Okay.
I'm safe for tonight.
Yeah.
Maybe not tomorrow, but
Yeah.
yeah. If there was something not quite right for him, like a companion with the woman, Gary would still offer them a ride as he was investing in the future. Quote, to get him used to me in case I see one of them alone, in case I see one of them at a time alone. End quote.
Okay.
If someone would not want to go to a remote location with him, he would offer them more money. He would do this knowing that he wouldn't spend any money and might actually make more if they had cash on them. Another way that Gary would gain their confidence was by using his son's picture that he kept in his wallet and would often keep a kid's toy on the dash of his truck.
Okay. That's messed up.
Hmm. He preferred to kill women in his home, and once inside his home, he would often show his son's bedroom to reassure his victims that he wasn't dangerous.
Even more messed up.
Hmm. Sometimes he wasn't able to persuade a woman to have sex with him in a way where he could kill her and would have to release her unharmed. He would have to hide his emotions as he would become frustrated and angry and would have to calm down before choosing another victim. If the next woman saw hints of the lingering anger or frustration, he would tell them, quote, I've just been arrested a while back, and they can see any kind of nervousness is because that instead of nervousness and wanting to be strange.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, question:
Yeah.
how often is his son staying with him in his
Um,
house.
it sounds like not all that, at least when this is happening, not that common.
But still, though,
Yeah.
even to like have your kid over there ever.
I mean,
Whoa.
I know he said for one of them that his son was in the truck when he was in the woods with a woman.
Whoa. Okay. So he can't even give it a rest while he's with his son.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm. I don't think it happened too much after that because he was nervous about his son potentially seeing or hearing
Oh,
something.
yeah.
But yeah,
That's messed up.
very messed up. So when Gary would bring a woman to his house, he would encourage them to use the bathroom first. This wasn't for their benefit, though. He knew that strangulation victims would frequently become incontinent, and
Okay.
he didn't want to
Oh,
clean up a
my God.
mess. Yeah.
That's weird. Okay.
He basically murdered all of his victims by choking, and pretty much all of his victims in the same way, essentially to be as minimally graphic as possible. Take them from behind. When he's done, they put their head up and he grabs them.
Okay. I was curious if this was going to be a theme because didn't he strangle one of his wives at one point?
Mhm. That's what the wife claims, yeah.
Okay. And I believe that's like an indicator typically of future homicide. And then I was curious if it was going to tie back to the way he kills his victims, and it sounds like that's his chosen method.
Is strangulation, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Also, incontinence is where he draws the line here. That's too
Right?
much. Like, really? Okay.
Huge inconvenience.
Yeah. Like, okay. Yeah, this guy. All right.
Yeah. He's something. Sometimes he would tell the victim if they stopped struggling, he would let them go. And apparently, this worked on a number of his victims. Gary denied ever using knives or firearms because it would have been too messy and they may have been able to scream. Also, choking was, quote, more personal and more rewarding than to shoot her, end quote.
Okay. So it seems like he basically wanted to like feel them like passing out and then
Mm-hmm.
but I can't remember what I was gonna say. Oh, again, for someone who's so proud of this and he's like basically having to get them more comfortable to stop struggling. Again, not great in any way, but it's like just the things that he admits about it and he's like
Mm-hmm.
so proud of it. And here's all the ways they made it super easy. So I basically didn't even have to work for it. It's just like there's such a disconnect. It's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand it.
I don't either. But it's a good thing that we don't
Yeah,
understand it.
that's true. Okay, you're right. Okay, maybe I don't want to be in that mindset. You're
It is a
right.
very
You're
good
right.
thing.
Okay. You make a good point.
Uh, um, so he told investigators that he started off using the crook of his arm, but after some victims scratched his arm and hands, he started using some ligatures instead. Some items he used were towels, belts, bathrobe, ties, extension cords, rope, sticks, jumper cables, curtain ties, and even his t shirt.
Okay.
He claims to have killed his victims at his house, in the back of the pickup truck, or outside. Of the women killed in his house, all were killed in the bedroom except for one who managed to initially escape, and he ended up killing her in the living room right by the front door.
Oh,
She was so close.
sad. Yeah.
So sad. He denied ever torturing his victims and denied experimenting with other methods of murder, as his method was working well and, quote, choking is what I did and I was pretty good at it, end quote.
Okay.
So I might butcher this name and I'm going to apologize, but Rebecca Garday Geary, last last two names there were Garde space Guay. She was the only known survivor of the Green River Killer.
Oh.
And she actually described what happened to the task force detectives. Gary admitted to attempting to murder her in 2003. He had taken her into the woods for a date. He removed all of his clothing, but didn't appear to have any interest in her. His personality clicked, and he attacked her. Rebecca stated, quote, his face looked white, clammy, cold. His arms and everything was cold. His hands, he was a totally different person. And he kind of made me think that if he did kill me, since he wasn't interested in me sexually before that, he probably would have tried to have intercourse if I was dead. End quote.
Whoa. How old was Rebecca?
I don't know how old Rebecca was. I can look it up. I just have to copy paste that name.
Why is he? What's his thing with the woods, man?
Easy place.
Yeah.
They're already outside.
Yeah, I suppose.
She was 20
Okay.
at that time.
Okay. Because in the last one, it was like when he was 16, he brought that kid into that 6-year-old into the
Into the
woods.
woods.
Like he
Mhm.
is obsessed with the woods.
Yeah, I don't know what's with the woods.
Okay.
My only thought is they're already outside.
Yeah, I
Less
guess.
people, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. Initially, Gary adamantly denied claims of having sexual contact post-mortem with women. A few days into the interview process, though, he admitted to doing so with some of his victims and later admitted to sometimes going back to the victim's body either until the flies came or until he killed another.
That's messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
It's gross. He only admitted to doing this with about 10 victims, but only because it was convenient. When asked why did he have sex with a dead body over going to kill another woman, Gary responded, quote, well, for one thing, you'd have to pay for it, and she was already dead. End quote.
How does he remember that it was like 10? Does he remember? He just must not remember who the victims were that he did that with.
Probably.
Because otherwise, I'm like, I don't know. It just seems like it's not adding up. If he's saying, like, I know there were 10, how does he know that if he doesn't remember stuff? Just
My
guessing.
my guess from reading the summary, it sounds like he remembers a lot about the kills and a lot about the locations.
Just
He just
not the people. He just, because he doesn't see them as
Mhm.
people, essentially, I'm
Yeah.
guessing.
Another one of the big things to him was when he would kill them, they would always be facing away from him. There was one time that they were facing him and he didn't like it.
Because you can dehumanize someone a little bit more if you don't have to look in their eyes or like
Right.
see their face. It's just
Mhm.
like, okay, whoa. All right.
Yeah. So, my guess.
Okay.
Mm. Eventually, Gary stopped doing this, though, as a cold body became less satisfying.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, as we have already established, Gary didn't remember a ton of detail about his victims, but he did remember where he placed their bodies and how he got them out of his house. He would grab the victim by their feet, drag them on the rug, and then he would drag the rug over to where he kept the plastic, which sounded like plastic sheets. And then he would then wrap her up and take her to the door. Gary would then back his truck up to the door, open the tailgate of the truck, and load them in the back and close the canopy. When he would dump them, they didn't have any clothing as he didn't want any potential evidence left on them. He didn't keep any of the items of clothing as, quote, they were just rags to me, end quote. Because some people like keeping
Oh, yeah,
trinkets.
like mementos or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when you were saying the thing about him not remembering, or like, I was curious, so he doesn't keep things from the victims. Like he just doesn't. Okay. I'm curious in how he remembers like how many, if they're blurring together that much. I mean, I guess maybe he just remembers timelines, maybe. Like, oh yeah, that weekend. Yeah, or something. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's just not adding up.
We do talk about that more
Okay.
in a little bit. I do
Maybe I
remember
should be
that.
patient.
Well,
Patience.
it's hard
I
with
know,
stuff
I'm
like
like,
this.
what?
I need to know. Oh, this was a messed up thing though. Um, he would more times than not take off their jewelry as part of his routine. Quote, they die, I take their jewelry, end quote. Gary had left at least 20 items of jewelry from his victims and put them in the women's bathroom at his work. Quote, my favorite thing was maybe if someone's walking around with a piece of jewelry that they found in the bathroom, end quote.
Whoa. So that's
Yeah.
bold. He's just, I want to be reminded of my victims while I'm at work. And then these poor unsuspecting women at work are wearing, unbeknownst to them, a murder victim's
Mm-hmm.
jewelry.
Yeah. That's bold. Really, yeah. He also started taking more precautions. If a victim scratched him, he would cut her fingernails prior to dumping her body. He also used gloves and ensured nothing was left behind. He was proud of not being caught. Once he was worried if he left tire tracks at a dump site, and he immediately replaced the tires on his truck and threw the old ones into the river at a different site.
Whoa.
So there's a lot of
He's
planning.
going all out to
Yeah.
literally cover his tracks here, but
Yeah.
wow. Do you know at what point he started getting what victim number he started getting nervous about? He didn't really say.
I don't think
Okay.
so. Um,
It's crazy that there's so many that I have to be like, what was it? Was it ballpark 10, ballpark 20? Like,
insane. Yeah.
okay. Because at what point are you starting to be like, man, maybe I'm getting a little too cocky here, like better try and cover my tracks a little bit.
I don't know.
I mean, you'd think
It's a
one,
great
you
question.
think
Yeah.
one, but clearly that wasn't
Yeah.
the case for him. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Don't kill people, please. So, going back to dropping off his victims, he would drive, usually at night, to a secluded spot to park his truck. He would then take the body off. Okay. He would then drop the body off and drive up a little way so if there was an officer coming by, they wouldn't immediately see the body. So he would dump, go drive a little bit, and then come back.
Okay.
He would then walk through the woods to where the body was and drag them further into the woods. One of Gary's concerns was a victim regaining consciousness in the back of his truck. So he tied ligatures around some victims' necks before putting them into his truck. And he would also turn his mirror to have an eye in the back of the truck to look for any signs of movement.
So he wasn't always 100% sure they were dead when they were in the back of his truck?
Probably, or I don't know, maybe he just worried about them all of a sudden coming back. I wonder if it happened
I
to
was gonna
him.
say it must have happened once, and then he
Yeah,
just was all of a sudden was like,
paranoid that it was going to happen again.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Because my understanding of strangulation, which is not a lot,
yeah, I'd be worried if
not a
you, yeah,
lot, it takes a long time.
yeah. That's why it surprised me that he was just literally using his body at first.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then yeah, it must have been he just assumed when they were unconscious at some point that, oh, they're dead or they're gonna die soon or something. And I
Mm-hmm.
wonder if something happened. But of all things to be paranoid about, I don't know.
I mean, another one of my thought processes here is also um, recent dead bodies do make a lot of noises.
Oh,
And so I wonder if he was just paranoid because
He
he
heard
was hearing
something.
noises. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, never been confirmed, so we
Hey,
don't know.
yeah.
um, the most precious thing to Gary were the undiscovered bodies of his victims. He had a sense of ownership of the victims' bodies, and once a body was discovered, he felt like they were taking away something that was his. In order to try to keep his victims, he pinned the third victim to the bottom of the Green River, but he did this because, quote, you had already found two of them by then, and I wasn't going to let this other one get away, end quote.
So he like went back to where this body was after two were found. He's like, I don't want that one to be found. And then how did he pin it to the bottom of the river? Like tied a rock or something? He didn't
I don't know,
say.
didn't say.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Interesting.
I mean, weigh it down,
Yeah, just weigh it
tie
down
it, I
somehow
don't know.
somehow. But
Hmm.
so he was just leaving the victims like by the river. He wasn't actually putting them in the water.
From the sounds of it, and there's a lot of victims, so
Yeah,
I
it
have
could have
no
been different.
idea. It could
Yeah.
have been different, but I know a lot of them were found, like the first couple were found on the river's edge.
Okay.
I mean, he could have put them
And then
in
they
the
came,
river
yeah,
and they would float,
yeah.
but I know that there were several bodies in the same area that they
So he probably
discovered,
didn't then because
so
they wouldn't have
probably not.
flown then floated down or whatever.
Not to the same spot.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Gary had only buried a few of his victims. The reason for this was because the specific area here was near an airport and he didn't want people to smell decomposing bodies and find them. For decades, he stayed silent and never gave any hint to anyone who knew him that he was a murderer. Up until his arrest, he didn't tell anyone that he had killed. He believed he would never be caught. Each and everything that Gary did was deliberately calculated to reduce the risk of being detected. He rarely would pick up a woman from the curb when they were working. He would often make eye contact with them and would flash them money as he drove by. He would pull off into a parking lot of a building nearby and wait for them to approach him.
Okay.
If there were any witnesses, he wouldn't go through with the murder and maybe date her anyways. Gary believed that by doing this, if he was ever caught, these women that he dates would be references and would say he didn't hurt them. If the dates were arranged on the phone through her pimp, and if he killed that woman, he would call the same pimp to arrange another date with the same woman because this would suggest that he believed that she was still alive and there would be no way that he could be the killer.
But wouldn't the pimp be like, well, you were the last one that she was with, and I never saw her again. So, but then I guess they also can't really go to the police and be like, this woman that I'm pimping out, like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know how that works.
Also, I don't know, maybe I missed this in part one. What's the time frame of like when, when he's a murderer?
So that changed a lot. Um, like originally Gary said like he stopped killing at this point. He
Yeah.
didn't kill past that, but then like he's like, "Oh no, I did. That was my
Right,
victim."
because he
And it would be years
forgot.
later.
How long is in between these victims?
So,
Like, is it a week? Is it like months? I'm just curious.
yeah, I mean,
Because like sometimes I hear about people who are like, well, then I just started doing it every, you know,
mhm.
weekend, and then not, then that's when I stopped because it was too much or something.
I mean, it changes a lot because
Oh,
he
he goes in and
lied a
out.
lot in his he admitted that it was hard for him to tell the truth because he got so used to lying.
Oh,
And so in these interviews, so
mhm.
some of these it's
Wow.
so hard
Yeah,
to really
because
know.
literally his whole thing is just I'm a liar.
Yeah.
Okay, a serial killer
Um
and a serial liar.
yeah, most of the murders occurred between 82 and 84.
Whoa.
Yeah, so that's a
So that's
2-year
like,
period.
whoa, so that's a lot. He was doing it
Mhm.
frequently. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, how did he fly under the radar so long? Because
Yeah.
that's well, first um he didn't fit what everyone thought a serial killer would be. He wasn't a loner. He controlled his anger. He didn't have any known criminal history
Okay.
because we didn't know about the kid yet.
Yeah.
He was either married or was seeing someone in his adult life and worked the same job or worked the same company for 30 years and even received awards for perfect attendance.
Okay.
So
He's
he's
not missing
not,
work to murder people, so yeah, must not be
apparently.
him. Wow. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Why you wouldn't think it's him? I mean, he just seems
Yeah,
like a normal dude.
he doesn't fit the
Yeah.
stereotypes. Yeah. Even after his arrest, close friends and family doubted that he would ever do that. His wife claimed that they had an excellent relationship, and his brother stated he never displayed abnormal behaviors growing up. When Gary was interviewed by the task force, he was very cooperative. He would oftentimes admit to dating some of the victims and also told investigators that he was addicted to prostitutes. Since he agreed to being interviewed without an attorney present and took a polygraph exam, he avoided suspicion. In 1984, he passed the polygraph exam. He later on explained why he was able to pass that. Quote, I just relaxed and took the polygraph. I mean, I didn't practice or anything, just relaxed and answered the questions, and whatever came out, came out. I mean, they weren't precise, or I don't know what the deal was. Maybe I was too relaxed. End quote.
Again, just he does not care.
Mm-mm.
Like you would think you'd be a little bit scared at this point, like, oh, I'm about to get caught.
I also feel like lying is so natural to him at
You're
this point.
right. Yeah, that he doesn't care. It doesn't phase him to lie. You're right.
Yeah.
Most of us would be like, one, I'm lying, and two, I'm about to get caught for murder. Like, but he's just
Yeah.
like, I can lie so easily, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just very
Whoa.
relaxed.
Okay. So he passed it.
Yeah, he passed it.
That's crazy.
As Gary's confidence in going undetected grew, he went from just avoiding detection to taking active steps to confuse and mislead investigators. At the dump sites, he would choose to mislead investigators. He would place things like cigarette butts and chewing gum there, and he had not been the one to use them.
Hmm.
Mhm. One place in particular, he scattered airport and motel pamphlets and a car rental paper to imply that the killer was a traveling salesman.
For 2 years, a traveling salesman just, okay. I don't know. I feel like, man, if I was an investigator, I'd be like, what are, I
What
wouldn't
is
just
this?
assume that someone's going out of their way to do this, but then I might start to be like, that seems a little weird that this would be left here.
Mm-hmm.
Seems a little too convenient. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why are there clues?
All of a sudden, there's just purposeful clues
You're
right next to
right.
it when there wasn't anything, and all of a sudden there's stuff now.
Because I just feel like he's doing too much now.
He's going way overboard. At another one, he had put a hair pick on a scene and hoped that investigators would suspect a pimp.
Okay. Wow.
For another, he left a victim's driver's license at an airport to suggest that she left town. Gary also wrote a letter to a newspaper in 1984 titled, quote, What You Need to Know About the Green River Man, end quote. In this letter, there were many references to the killings and told false information about the killer's identity in attempts to throw off the task force. The letter suggested the Green River Killer to be either a traveling salesperson or a trucker, and the purpose of the killings were for profit or revenge. In the letter, he talked about the victim's fingernails being cut, but the investigators did not know this detail until Gary told them in 2003.
Oh.
The task force sent the letter to the FBI for analysis, and an expert there decided that the letter was not written by the killer. Gary later provided details of the letter that proved that he wrote it.
Why is he going out of his way to like admit all this stuff now? Like once he's caught, is it because of the deal that he made? Like if we catch you lying, then okay. So that's why he's just like, all right, well, at this
Yeah,
point,
get everything up, out,
okay.
figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's how they're like, okay, that now we know you're telling the truth that it was your letter because we didn't know the fingernail thing and then other things in the letter. He's like,
Well, and also a lot, I mean, obviously I don't know about Gary, but serial killers in general, they this is their job. This is what they like to do. This is their passion. They want to talk about what they've done, and he's been silent for so long.
yeah, okay.
So
And I guess there's no way around it at this point. I mean, you might as well talk because,
talk or death
yeah,
row.
okay.
Yeah. Gary then planned to mislead the task force by suggesting the Green River Killer may be active in a different state. In 1984, he drove to Portland, Oregon, and placed partial remains of Denise Bush, Shirley Sherrill, and he claimed a third woman, but her remains haven't been found. The remains of Denise and Shirley were discovered in 1985. While he was in Oregon, Gary also used cash for everything, leaving no record. He later told investigators that he hoped that the remains would be found because this would lead police to believe the Green River Killer moved south. When the remains were found in 1985, there was a lot of speculation that the Green River Killer was operating in Portland. The task force even went to Oregon to investigate. So that is what I have for part 2 on the Green River Killer.
Okay. Interesting. I'm curious to see how much more he shares
Mm-hmm.
and that the task force didn't already know in part 3 because it seems like he's telling on himself for things that he didn't need to. And for somebody who seems to take pride in keeping things to himself, well, I don't know.
I mean, he really did not
He's,
want the death penalty, though.
yeah, yeah,
So if he got caught with any of the ones that he didn't talk about,
yeah. Okay. I suppose. But I think now he's just in a tizzy and like, I'm just going to say everything because,
Mhm.
well, I don't know what they know, which I guess I would do the same thing, I guess.
But we do not
But I
kill
would not be in
people.
that position. I would never be in that position. So I
No,
wouldn't have to.
no, don't kill people. Be nice.
Yes.
Any other last minute thoughts on part 2?
No, no.
Okay. Right. Well, Jamie will also be here for part 3, so stay tuned for next week.
Yay.
We'll see you then. Bye.